So welcome to our final AI Playgroup and Makerspace of the 24-25 school year. I'm Elizabeth Bennett. I am the Digital Learning Specialist at Literacy Minnesota. I'm on the statewide Supplemental Services Grant team. And it's my full-time job to help teachers figure out how to use technology and teach digital literacy and troubleshoot any issues you might be having or questions you have. I love working with teachers, so please do not hesitate to contact me or any of the team members at our help desk email, which I will drop in the chat because it's ridiculously long. Also here today we have Nick. Nick, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
See, is my audio functioning?
Yes.
All right, awesome. My name is Nicholas Holson. I am part-time on the same team that Elizabeth is, the statewide distance learning team, where our job is to review distance learning platforms, take a look at them, get into nittier, grittier topics like this with the AI learning stuff, and to be a co-pilot during an inevitable tech headache like Duolingo deciding not to work, or MobyMax not reporting your hours. We are there to help support teachers. Outside of the DL statewide position, I am a digital navigator at Open Door Learning Center in Minneapolis, where I largely help students use computers for English learning labs, troubleshoot forgotten passwords, or help them address barriers in getting to online class. It's a pleasure to meet everybody.
Thank you
Apologies if
so
I don't
much.
recognize you and you've come again.
Yeah, thank you, Nick. And I think Jason will be joining us a little bit later. He's also on our statewide distance learning team and has a lot of knowledge about AI himself. So this series of webinars has been inspired by an EdTech Makerspace project from the EdTech Center at World Education. And I stole this from their handbook because I really love it. Just want to remind everyone that this is, if you're a beginner, it's totally okay. Everybody is new to using AI and it's changing all the time. And we are all lifelong learners. And also we are stronger together. So the idea is we're helping each other learn and also maybe the makerspace aspect, creating some resources that we can share with each other. There is a gigantic spreadsheet that has all the links from previous sessions going back to January. And it keeps getting longer, obviously. So if you can't find what you're looking for, then you'll just keep scrolling down. You'll find it eventually. I actually need to update it. Springtime, April, May is a crazy time of year for everybody, and it's kind of gotten away from me. But I promise you, I will update it with the resources from last month and this month's after our meeting today. And the link to the spreadsheet, I won't put it in the chat right now, but it'll be on the handout that we will share with you. Our learning targets for today are pretty simple. I just want you to be able to identify at least one. There are several that I will show you, but just one tool is fine that you can use for leveling text and or for generating a new text for adult learners. I want you to be able to then begin to use that tool to either adapt an existing text or generate a new text. And hopefully we'll be able to share a few resources with each other. Before we dive into the tools, we'll take some time to just consider the context. Why bother using AI when there are so many great texts out there already? I'll show you some examples that I and Andrea Eckelberger have created using AI. We'll talk about and see demonstrations of a few tools, mostly free, some that are free-ish. You can pay for an upgrade. And then you'll have some time to play around, explore with the tools. We'll come back together to kind of debrief and reflect. And that'll be it. So, starting with some context for this, and I'll just pose this to all of you. We're a small enough group. Feel free to turn on your microphone and share, or use the chat if you'd like to. Um, why would you want to use AI instead of a text that already exists and was written by a human being?
You can tailor the reading level to your readers.
Exactly. Yeah, that's probably the biggest reason that teachers are going to want to use it because, yeah, we have um, readers at a variety of levels, maybe even elementary school level readers, but they're adults. They want to read about things that are relevant to them.
We had somebody in the chat yell out time in big capital letters.
Yeah, I know teachers who take the time to write their own texts, which is amazing and awesome. But yeah, hopefully you can save yourself some time by using these tools. Thank you. Christine adds in the chat, you can tailor the content directly to a specific group of learners. Um, Especially maybe you're teaching like a career contextualized course, and you just need something really specific, and there isn't a third grade level text about working in an Amazon warehouse, right? And so you can create something that really works for whoever you're working with. Um, so yeah, came up with these reasons ahead of time, but we've already pretty much touched on them. You want to have a very specific topic. You want a text that has an appropriate level of difficulty for your learners. Not too difficult, but challenging enough that they'll be able to engage in some productive struggle. You want it to not just be at the right reading level, but you want the tone to be appropriate for adults. You don't want the examples to all be about your allowance money or sharing toys with your sister. It just needs to be appropriate for adult learners. And maybe you're teaching some specific academic vocabulary and you want a text that incorporates specific words. So as we're thinking about leveling, we need to talk about text complexity. A lot of us, when we hear text complexity, we just think, oh, Lexile or grade level equivalent. And that is, the quantitative measures are important and useful, but equally important are the qualitative dimensions. And also we want to think about the reader and the task. I've linked here to an article that Christine wrote in the MNABE Connect newsletter. And Christine listed a few things to consider about that reader and task, right? This is probably the dimension that AI may not be able to help us with very much. So we really need that teacher. You need to just, use your teacher wisdom and teacher judgment, thinking about your particular learners and what motivates them, their prior experiences and knowledge, the purpose. Are you just using something for some fluency practice? Or do you really want to dive deep and compare, two or more texts or talk about theme or mood or tone? What are you going to be using the text for? How complex is the task? Is it just, you need to be able to summarize what's the beginning, middle, and end, or are you really, doing your GED practice essay where you have to, analyze who has the better argument and who backs up their claim with evidence? The cognitive capabilities of your learners, content and theme concerns, and what kind of supports you're going to need to provide. Are you working with English learners? Are you going to need to add a lot of visuals to support comprehension? Are you going to use a specific type of graphic organizer? What other supports can you provide? Also, I found this really nice graphic about the qualitative dimensions. So I was talking with Christine actually last week, and she talked about using a text that, was a narrative text. Usually we think narratives, stories are maybe a little bit easier for learners to understand. But this story had flashbacks. And so everything was not sequenced in chronological order. And even if the vocabulary and content is simpler, if you have narrative things like that with flashbacks or flash forwards, that can make the text more complex. So the structure, is it just a single level of meaning, or are there metaphors and figurative language? How contemporary is the language? I think back in college, I was a French major and struggling to read a Molière play in the original French from however many hundreds of years ago, and how like that was really not easy. Perspective and background knowledge that's required to understand the text. Those are some of the qualitative dimensions. And then, of course, we do have the quantitative dimensions. Hopefully you recognize this chart from your CCRS Blue Book. Most of the time, I tend to think about Lexile. That's usually the most frequent measure that's available, like ReadWorks uses it, and other platforms or sources where you might get your texts use Lexile quite commonly. But ATOS is another scale that can be used to measure complexity from a quantitative score. And in the handout that I'll provide you, there are, let me just show you real quick. There are some tools. So we have the ATOS analyzer tool is linked here, and there's a Lexile text analyzer. I actually did not use either one of those in my preparation for this session. I used the Hemingway editor, which doesn't give you Lexile or ATOS. It just gives you an approximate grade level. But I just found that a lot simpler to use. I have used the Lexile analyzer in the past. But I don't know when this change happened. I tried to use it recently, and they have all of these formatting things that you have to do with the text so that the tool can, read and analyze the text. And it was just way too much. If you really want a specific Lexile level, then it would be worth your time to probably use this tool. You just want to be sure that you follow their text preparation guidelines. And just expect to take some time to reformat your text, because things that you copy and paste directly from a website or a Google Doc are probably not going to work, unfortunately. The ATOS analyzer didn't seem to be as demanding as far as the formatting, but I just stuck with Hemingway editor, which is, I don't know, I think it's a nice, free, quick and easy tool to use. Another resource that I like to use when I'm thinking about level and what's going to be appropriate for my learners are these charts from the Reading Skills for Today's Adults website. I cut out in the screenshot the RSTA levels because those are not really relevant. But I like how this chart kind of lays out CCRS levels and grade levels. So when I was thinking about, what I'm using in class versus, another text maybe I want to assign from ReadWorks or something else that has a grade level or a Lexile, I found this really helpful. They also, if you go, this is linked in the handout again. If you go to their website and scroll down, there are charts that have not only the Lexile level, but also the corresponding test scores on the CASA's steps and goals and TABE. So that's a great resource as well. Before I keep going, I'm talking kind of fast, I realize. I'll just pause if you have any questions or comments you'd like to add at this point. Or you can just give me an okay in the chat if you want to keep going. Thank you, Nick. I appreciate it.
And
Hey,
Brian also
Brian.
says okay.
All right. Um, so as we're thinking about taking human created texts and just copying and pasting and changing them, um, I do think it's appropriate to take a moment and just consider copyright issues. Um, I feel like this is still kind of Wild West days of AI and copyright. There aren't a whole lot of rules. I think it's mostly more of like your personal philosophical beliefs. I mean, unless your school district has some guidance around it. But I'm not a lawyer. I think though, like what? Okay. I think we're fine. Um, I would say I think as a teacher, you have a lot of flexibility. There's a lot of things you can do that would fall under fair educational use. Um, so most texts, I wouldn't worry too much about copyright. I did find on this particular tool called Flint, which is linked on your handout, um, they specifically had in their FAQs, which I thought was really interesting, that according to them, it's fine to upload copyrighted material because this particular tool does not use the user data to train their AI models. So they're not going to like save anything that's been copyrighted in their system. A lot of other AI tools don't necessarily have this philosophy, so it's just something to be aware of. Um, Again, though, as teachers, we cut, copy, paste, change stuff all the time. Because we need to do that. We need to have appropriate materials for our learners. Um, I think personally, the only thing I would maybe not want to put into a chat GPT or some other tool that's going to keep the data um, might be something from a living author who's, if people are not buying their writing, they're not going to be able to continue to make their living this way. So I probably wouldn't like copy and paste someone's novel into ChatGPT. Or actually, one of our team members gave the example of his wife, Sarah Kiefer. You may have heard of her. She has a cooking column in the Star Tribune occasionally. She's a cookbook writer and she has a blog, and she earns some income from people coming to her website and viewing ads on her blog. And so if people are getting her recipes from ChatGPT or from some other AI tool, they're not necessarily clicking and going to her website and seeing those ads. So she's losing a little bit of income. Um, so just things like that to think about. If it's a living author that is depending on people going to their website or people buying their books, maybe I would be cautious about not putting that into an AI tool. But otherwise, I like the example we'll look at today is from the Minnesota Department of Transportation's website. I think anything from a government website is fair game. Anything that is free and open and obviously intended for education, I think is okay. Um, Other questions or thoughts, disagreements about?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because this is I think if you're into tech news or you're keeping your finger to the pulse on this particular topic, copyright has kind of defined most of the concerns when it comes to AI, mostly for big media companies. And this is more my opinion rather than anything truly informed or whatever. But for the most part, if you need somebody to do something in the style of, say, a Stephen King, he's fine. Uh, and what we're mostly in education, what we're mostly concerned about are things like if on the off chance that you have to display a text that you've generated from AI and some copyright lawyer might ding you for that. That might be the concern, but I would really think about these, at least my recommendation is to begin thinking about these kind of in terms of liability or kind of in terms almost like weather insurance or something. Because our goal is to get an educational product, not necessarily to stay in proper form within large IP holders dictates.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think this is anything terribly new. Like I remember, when I was an elementary teacher, I made
Yeah.
photocopies of everything and cut them up and pasted things in a different order and then made photocopies of the photocopies and like, um you're a teacher. You don't have a lot of money for stuff often.
Hmm.
And so you do what you need to do to get appropriate materials for your context. So, and as long as you're not, selling it and making money off of somebody else's work, you're only using it in your classroom with your learners. Again, I'm not a lawyer, but I think that's probably fine.
Yeah.
All right. So let's dive into some examples now. We'll look at two types of examples. Andrea Eckelberger is really my go-to person for this. She, I think, has kind of perfected like using ChatGPT and using it to take an original text and then make it available to learners at several different levels. She teaches very multi-level classes, and so she's able to have 2 or 3 versions of the same text. So everybody can access the same content, and then they can have meaningful discussions about it, even if someone is at a significantly lower reading level than someone else. So she was kind enough to share 2 texts that she has re-leveled. The first one was from the AARP and it's about getting scam texts. So she has the original text, which I noticed she did copy and paste from the website, but she also reformatted it a little bit to just make it nicer in a Google Doc without the ads and without some of the busy distractions. Um, then she added academic vocabulary that she pulled out of the text, multiple choice questions and a short answer question, and a cloze exercise where learners will listen and write the missing words. And so I just plugged this into Hemingway Editor. I wasn't going to mess around with the Lexile Analyzer and all the reformatting. And so the original, according to Hemingway Editor, was grade level 10 and 590 words. And then she has her second version, which got down to grade level 4, but was only 275 words. And then a third version, which was also grade level 4, but shortened to 209 words. And again, this is where it's not just about the quantitative measures. You also have to consider the qualitative and the reader and task dimensions also. So I will put this link in the chat for you. It is on the handout. But I'll put it in the chat for you just so you can quickly take a look at the different versions. And Christine is telling me to mention that these texts are intended for decoding and fluency purposes. So also everybody's getting the reading comprehension practice, but then you want to make sure that learners at different levels are able to access the text by, length of words and getting and just words that you can decode or words that are sight words and more common. So I'll put that in the chat for you to take a look at. So what you're seeing on the screen, if you're watching the recording, this is the original text that Andrea reformatted. She chose some academic vocabulary and put those words in boldface so they would stand out a little more. Legitimate, suspicious, source, embedded. And then she has some vocabulary. She does some work with word stress, and probably uses this for discussion and as a resource for learners. She has some multiple choice questions, which I did not ask her if she had AI generate the questions. You can easily do that with the tools that we'll look at today. Or you can write your own questions too. And she's got a short answer question that she's noting evidence-based, right? You have to use information from the text to explain your answer. And then she's got the close exercise. So that's the highest level, the original text. And then she's got version 2, which is a little bit simpler. And quite a bit shorter. And different academic vocabulary, but still, not dumbing it down at all, incorrect, unpaid, reschedule. There's a lot of work you could do with prefixes and word parts. And these are, really common, like those tier 2 words that come up in a lot of different contexts. And then she's got version 3. Again, slightly different vocabulary, but really useful high utility words for learners and comprehension questions, which everybody in the class could discuss these because they've all gotten essentially the same information from the text. I'll show you a second example. This is another, this was an article from a source called Complete to Compete. And this one, the original was 537 words and grade level 8, according to Hemingway Editor. She has the same types of vocabulary questions and close exercise. And then for version 2, she got it down to grade level 4 and 253 words. I'll put this link in the chat as well. I really like that she found very, very relevant texts, right? Everybody gets scam texts. You need to know how to deal with those. And of course, going to school as an adult, like we talk about those TIF skills of self-management and setting smart goals. So a very useful text if you're going to take the time to re-level it. These are some good examples of the types of things where you might want to take the time to do that. So this is the original text that we're looking at on the screen right now. And then this academic vocabulary selected from the text. Comprehension questions. And short answer, again, evidence required. And the close exercise. And then here we've got version 2. And I noticed some of the academic words are more similar, like we've got prioritize in this one, and I think the first one had prioritized with the ed ending. Also overwhelmed, I think, was common between the two versions. And then again, the vocabulary and questions. And a close exercise. Questions or comments, things you find interesting about those two examples? All right. And so Andrea mentioned she also has started to use ChatGPT to create her own texts for adult learners. She wanted to discuss how volunteering can help you get a better job, but I know there are articles and books about that, but maybe nothing at an appropriate level for your learners, or maybe nothing that's really contextualized for new Americans or for immigrants. So this is not just how it can help you get a better job, but how it can help you get a better job in the United States as a person who is learning English as an adult. Because it's Andrea, she not only created the text, but also got it at several different levels. So the original 252 words, grade level 8. Second version, 148 words, grade level 4. And then the third version, 118 words and grade level 3. I'll put this in the chat for you. Yes, Andrea is always a rock star. So here's the original, which she may have edited a little bit, but she said she generally doesn't have to do too much massaging of the texts. When you put enough details in the prompt, you can get something really quickly that is usable. So yeah, volunteering is a great way to gain job experience in the United States. It can help you learn new skills, meet new people, and practice speaking English. We've got a specific reference to adult English language learners, and how it not only can help you get a better job, but it can help you improve your English. And some very realistic examples of ways that learners might be able to volunteer in their community. So that was kind of the original, and then she just took that and had the AI, make it easier, make it simpler. So here's version 2, a little bit shorter, a little bit less complex, but still the same examples, the same context. This is specifically for adults who are new to the country and learning English. And then version 3, the simplest version, but we've still got, these same examples: read with children at school, greet patients at a hospital, care for animals at a shelter. And then I did something like this when I was teaching intermediate ESL. Um, both of these topics, understanding debit versus credit cards and systems of the human body. These were things that I had asked my learners, like we're doing a financial literacy unit. What do you most want to learn about? What would be most helpful to you? And people wanted to learn about credit cards. When we were doing our health unit, my students told me, I already know basic head, shoulders, nose, legs, feet, body parts, but I want to know, more advanced parts of the body, more advanced vocabulary, things that I will actually hear when I go to the doctor and I'm trying to have a conversation, with the staff there. So I'll show you understanding debit and credit cards. I did not create multiple versions at different levels. And I noticed, goodness, was grade level 9. And I didn't realize that at the time when I was, a year and a half ago when I was actually using this. It is a challenging text, but my kind of routine and the way I approached the reality of like, um, I have 30 learners in my class, but the reality is that like a lot of them are only going to attend half of the days of class. Like that's just where we're at. So I tended to use the same text, but over 2 or 3, maybe even more weeks, depending on the text, and depending on the types of things we were doing with it. So it is quite a challenging text, but we spent a lot of time on it and we did a lot of different activities. I always did a pre-reading activity with an image and a word cloud of words from the text that we would use to make predictions about what we were going to read about, activate some of that prior knowledge. And then I did a lot of vocabulary work with if you've been through STAR training, they call it the quadrant chart, or a Freyer model. A lot of vocabulary practice activities, assessment, test practice, writing, vocabulary review, and then just some miscellaneous stuff that I left in there for you to look at if it's useful. So we just had an image of the front and back of a card. Talked about what do you see, what do you notice, and then these are some important words from the text in the word cloud. It's literally, there's a website called freewordcloudgenerator.com, and that's what I used. And I taught learners, if it's a big word, that means it's in the text a lot of times. So it's going to be really important. So what are some of the most important words in this text? Well, credit, card, cards, money, debit, use. And then we could talk about, which of these words do you already know? Which ones are new to you? What do you have questions about? Lots of good discussion things you can do with word clouds. And I can't take credit for this. I totally stole this word cloud idea from Liddy Rich. She's awesome, teaches for North St. Paul ABE. And then here's the actual text itself. So you can see like, yeah, it's got a lot of words like authorize, crucial, deducted. So definitely a demanding text, but we spent a lot of time on it. And then we always did vocabulary notes with this, Freyer model or quadrant chart. I like to add a translation option. So learners, I tell, don't maybe scan the entire text with your phone and translate the entire thing because then your phone is learning English, and maybe you aren't learning as much English. But for certain keywords, certainly go ahead, use your phone, translate the word into your language. Make sure you're getting the translation for the correct part of speech, because that can really change the meaning. But go ahead and translate it. That's going to help you retain it. That's going to help it stick in your brain. There's no problem with translating important words. So we would go through, I can't remember how exactly I selected these words. I may have, there are tools where you can copy and paste a text in and it will highlight important academic words. I may have used one of those tools, or I may have done some combination of using the tool and then also just looking at the text and thinking like, what are words that I can just explain and be done with, and then other words that are really going to be useful and that we really need to spend more time on.
Yeah, I have a small question.
Yeah.
It's a Hemingway question because I really haven't used the editor.
Uh-huh.
Hemingway doesn't have like a keyword identifier or something.
I don't think so. Here, let me grab the tab over here. So this is Hemingway. We're gonna look at this example text a bit later. It doesn't, I think if you have the paid version, it may select words for you, but this is just the free version. So it just
Okay.
gives you a grade level, and the number of words, and then it highlights sentences. But so useful for rewriting stuff, but maybe not as useful for selecting specific academic
Yeah.
vocabulary.
So you found it was easier to just kind of rely on your accumulated experience and kind of
Yeah,
gut feeling.
yeah. I mean, I have been an ESL teacher for a few years, so just
Yeah.
using my my teacher wisdom.
Yeah. So those of you with teacher wisdom, I can't count myself among this number. I have the opposite. Whatever the opposite of teacher and wisdom is.
You have some wisdom, Nick.
Mhm.
And then for the vocabulary practice, so I guess Um, yeah, I'm showing these images, fair educational use, I hope, because these are not AI generated images. You could use AI to generate your own images. I almost always just used Google Images and copied and pasted because again, I'm not selling this. I'm not trying to make money off of it. You know,
Yeah.
so we would do, match the word to the picture, and often the same picture could have more than one word that goes with it, and you can get a lot of really good discussion from that. And then again, if you've had STAR training, this will look really familiar to you. Sentence completion. So learners are not actually being asked to use the word yet, but they just finish a sentence that has the word in it.
Elizabeth, do you want me to drop? We've actually gotten in trouble using Google Images
Uh-huh.
but would you like me to drop, we have that we give to presenters and everything, that huge long
Yes.
spreadsheet of all those links that teachers can, I mean, you can literally find a free image and many sites that represent great diversity, like women
Mhm.
specifically, people of color, LGBT. It's a great list.
Yeah,
Should I
thank you.
drop that?
Sure.
I love the star stuff, by the way.
Um, so yeah, so the vocabulary practice one was easier, and we're kind of building up the closed sentences where you are having to use the target vocabulary. And then we have a paragraph, test practice. Again, I can't remember. I probably used AI to help me generate these questions, but then I may have edited or only chosen the ones that I liked. And then writing practice. This is also, if you use reading skills for today's adults, this should look familiar to you. I just kind of used that as my format and gave 2 choices with sentence starters. And we actually did this in Google Docs because we were fortunate to have Chromebooks. So learners were practicing all the digital literacy skills at the same time as they were doing their writing practice. And I just had this as a template that I could share in Google Classroom. Thank you for that link, Christine. And then there's just some random stuff at the end. All right, so that was the financial literacy example, and then I'll show you, this was the health unit example. So we had, the same pictures to talk about and keywords from the text, and then the text itself. This one, yeah, this one was only grade level 8, so not quite as high as the other one. This one I do remember I worked really hard with that Lexile analyzer tool, trying to get it down to what was appropriate for my low intermediate ESL. I never quite got it down low enough, and I think it's mostly because I didn't want to take out those hard respiratory, circulatory, those hard vocabulary words. I had to leave those in because that's what my learners wanted to learn. But that is going to affect the quantitative score. So here's the text. I'll put this in the chat too. Sorry, yeah, Carol, I apologize. I can't, I may not have put the other link in the chat, but it's all on the handout that you will get. Yes. I found some other diagrams because I thought it was, we needed some more visual support. So I had learners, label these diagrams, which system is being shown. And then we did the same kind of format, vocabulary notes and vocabulary practice activities and sentence completion, close exercise, paragraph. I probably used AI to generate this paragraph, although I don't know, I may have had to mess around with it quite a bit because I had to get all those vocabulary words to fit, and then it had to be the correct part of speech. And so probably started with AI and then messed around with it a lot. Same thing for these sentences. I probably just asked for example sentences using these vocabulary words, but then had to adjust to make sure everything was appropriate and all of the words were being used in the correct way that I was trying to teach. And then assessment questions. I can tell from the formatting, I did not reformat this. So this is definitely something that was copied and pasted, probably from Magic School. But nothing wrong with that, right? We just need some test practice. All right, and I didn't have as much with this text for whatever reason, but that's what I can share with you. Questions before we move in? I'm gonna demonstrate a few tools that you might want to use, but we can pause for any questions or comments. All right. Yeah, go ahead.
Is this something that even somebody who is not real techie is going to be able to do?
Yes, I do believe you will be able to do it, Carol. We're actually gonna dive into some tools right now, and I will show them to you. All of these are free. The first 4 are completely free. ReadEasy.ai I'm not going to spend much time on today because it's actually from the Netherlands, and it's built more for people who are designing websites and want to make sure everything is accessible, and readability is an aspect of accessibility. But it's more limited. I think you only get like five alterations of a text per month. which is kind of unfortunate. But the cool thing is that it's a browser extension, so there's not any copying and pasting involved. If learners wanted to use it, they could install that browser extension and then just highlight the text that they want simplified, and it does it right there on the website. So that's kind of a cool option. It also has a Microsoft Word and I think Microsoft Outlook email add-ons. So you can do the same thing with your email or your Word doc. Most of these general use chatbots are free or they have a free version. And then you can upgrade to a paid version. And if this is not enough for you, there are more options on our AI resource Padlet. But we'll start with my all-time favorite for anything education related is Magic School. And the great thing about Magic School is it has a ton of tools that are built right in. So you don't have to know anything about writing an effective AI prompt. You can just do, so I have favorited so many that there's like no point to having favorited them anymore, but you can use the search function. And they have a tool called the text leveler right here. So I'm going to say, again, it's not ideal. They do have professional staff if you're doing something, professional development session for your colleagues. You can select that as a level. For my low intermediate ESL class, that was ESL 4 or CCRSB. So I would usually like select second or third grade for that. So we'll just say second grade just to practice. And then I have this sample text, which is from the Minnesota Department of Transportation. If you're not from the Twin Cities, they're thinking about redoing the stretch of I-94 between St. Paul and Minneapolis. It's been going on for several years now, quite controversial. There are a lot of options being considered and lobbied for. But these are the four options that currently the Department of Transportation is recommending that they want to move forward and study more. So would probably be pretty interesting to learners who live in the Twin Cities Metro, especially if you happen to live very close to 94. But not a very friendly text for learners. Grade level 10 and a lot of complex specialized vocabulary. So let's try to make this simpler. So I've just copied it and I'm going to paste the text in here. I'm not going to do anything else, and then I'm just going to hit generate. And it gives me this simpler version. I'm trying to make it bigger here. Okay. So here are the choices MnDOT suggests to study more. No build, I-94 would stay the same. There would be no new improvements for buses, and current bus service would continue as it is. So compare that to the original I-94 would remain as is, like that's going to be challenging for learners. No improvements to transit. What is transit? What does that mean? Existing transit service would continue. That's not very learner-friendly language. So I think this does a nice job of getting the meaning across, but it's going to be more accessible for learners. Thank you, Christine. Yeah, Christine says this is a great authentic text for students to practice comparing and contrasting. Definitely. I think there are tons of things you could do with this text once learners are actually able to access the content. So we'll try that. I'm going to copy this. So most of these tools have a really easy copy function. So I can just click that. It is copied now. And I'm going to paste it into this Google Doc just so we can we have a way to compare the different things that the different tools make for us. So that was Magic School with the text leveler tool. Another free for teachers AI tool is called Conmigo. This is built into Khan Academy. And it has a lot of very similar built-in tools to Magic School. I don't like it quite as much, but I do think the one instance where it would be really useful is this class snapshot. If you have learners who are already using Khan Academy regularly for distance learning, it will analyze your student data for you and make suggestions about what types of things you might want to assign or work on next and which learners need help with different topics. So I think it's really powerful if you're already using Khan Academy. But they have a similar tool called the Leveler. So we'll see what it does. So this is, again, I'll just say rethinking I-94. It wants you to put in the title. And then same idea, I'm going to copy the original text. And just paste it in there. And then select the new reading level. So again, I'll choose 2nd grade. So this is interesting. It took out the headings and everything is just line by line single sentences, which is interesting. So I am going to copy this. This seems to be just with a quick look, not doing any intense analysis, but I would say this seems to be simpler than what I got from Magic School. I think maybe because they just separated it out line by line, sentence by sentence. It doesn't have that paragraph format. All right, so there's the Conmigo. Yeah, Christine, go ahead.
I was just going to say that I think that's a great example of why, we need to think about some of the qualitative features as well, because it's simplified, but it also took away the categorizing. And those headings can be so helpful for students, especially if the text is a little bit complex. Having it separated into those different options really helps with some of that complexity. So, I think you could easily take what you have here from Conmingo and add headings back or put them in groupings again, and then you probably have the best of both worlds.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, depending on your learners and what they need and what your goals are for using the text. Definitely. The third tool is called Teacher Server. And this one is a new one for me, but I like it because they have this reading level detector tool that will give you a Lexile score without all the finicky reformatting stuff that I would have had to do to use the official Lexile analyzer. So I just thought it was interesting. They said the original text was around 1150 Lexile level. And they evaluated it for me. So I put in, it's a 10th grade text because that's what Hemingway editor said. And they say the text is nearly at the desired grade level, but slightly challenging. And then this tool actually provided a revised version right within the reading level detector. And something cool, it highlighted changes. So they said they simplified the vocabulary, they changed infrastructure to roads, bridges, and drainage. They broke up long sentences and they used more straightforward language. So that was with the Lexile detector tool. Or I'm sorry, the reading level detector. That was the reading level detector. But now we're going to try the Lexile score adjuster. And so this one is similar. I'm going to paste in my original text. And I'm going to adjust for, I'll try adjusting it for Lexile level this time. I have to go back to my handout and review. So if I'm, grade level 2, that's going to be 420 to 650. I'll just say 500. We'll see what happens. All right, we'll say 500 and then generate a response. I hope nobody feels like they have to have all their Lexile ranges memorized. Like, never have I memorized anything. I always go back to that RSTA chart. So this is cool. It gave me the adjusted text. It kept those categories. It simplified it a little, 1, 2, 3, 4. But it's still, basically in a paragraph format. And then this is cool. It not only does it re-level it, but then it explains what it did. So if I want to go and take a deep dive and really make sure that the text is meeting my needs for my teaching goals, I have that information right there. It's a little more transparent than some of the other tools. And then it gives you more information about the original text and comparing it to the revised version. So I like this tool a lot for leveling. All right. Too many tabs. All right. And then I want to give you some time to play around on your own. So I'm not going to demonstrate the rest of the tools, but again, there is that Flint, which has they call it lower reading level tool. There's this Read Easy Chrome extension, or you can take any general use chatbot if you want to use ChatGPT, or if you're a Google school and your IT department has authorized Gemini, you can try it out with Gemini, or if you're a Microsoft school, you can try it out with Copilot if you have that access. So I have a sample text for you in the handout, also from the Department of Transportation, but a different part of the website, kind of just introducing, giving an overview of the Rethinking I-94 project. So you can just copy and paste that to play around, or if you have another text that you actually are planning to use with learners, go ahead and use that. That's probably a better use of your time. So on the handout, just choose one task because you will not have time to do both of them. I was going to create a Google form and I have not done that yet. So I will share that with you in the follow-up email. So if you want to contribute a resource, you find something that you think, hey, this is really great, should share this with my colleagues, please submit it to the form, and then it will be visible to everyone on that gigantic spreadsheet, which will also, you'll get a follow-up email with a lot of stuff. But your task, you have 2 tasks to choose from. You can re-level an existing text. And this is Andrea's sample prompt. She just would tell ChatGPT, rewrite this text at a whatever Lexile level for adult learners using approximately however many words she wanted. And then she noted that instead of going back to the original text, she would have it rewrite the modified text using a smaller number of words and a lower Lexile level. Because according to her, it makes the information and the examples between the various versions more consistent. And so it's easier for learners to have a discussion about all of the same content. There's another sample prompt here that I took from Kelly O'Brien. Most of these tools have an upload option, so you can upload a PDF or a Word document if you already have something, and you can tell it to, analyze the attachment and modify the attachment. Task 2, if you don't really want to relevel something, you just want to create a new text. Here's a sample prompt from Andrea. Write an article for adult English language learners on how volunteering can help them. And again, just be sure to use how many words you want and the Lexile level you want. That was for ChatGPT. If you are using Magic School or another tool, there is actually, there are two tools, academic content and informational texts, right built into Magic School. So same thing, it'll ask you for the grade level, text length, informational text type, and the topic, and then it will generate a new text for you. So I believe I used some version of this to create those human body and credit and debit card texts that I showed you. So there's no, just go ahead and use a built-in tool if that is easier for you. All right. So this is the handout. And again, the different tools are linked on page 3 of the handout. You've got the charts copied for you on page 2, and you've got examples linked on the first page. So I'll put the link to this handout in the chat. It's also, there is a QR code if you are watching the recording. You can scan the QR code or you can type the tiny URL, or I'll put the other URL in the chat for you to access that handout. And then I will just be quiet for about 10-15 minutes and you can take some time to play. But of course, Nick and I are here, so if you have questions or need help, just let us know. Ed is asking, what's the best thing I can use to upload a slide presentation? Yeah, I would say if you have the slides, if you can download it in a PDF format, I think you should be able to upload a PDF to pretty much any of these tools. I'm not sure about PowerPoint format. You might have to convert it to a PDF first. Do you have any specific knowledge on that, Nick?
No, other than the PDF, if it's just the text and you're concerned about formatting getting messed up, just punching in the text in like a text document should be sufficient.
So I'll go ahead and pause the recording and you can have some time to play around, and then we'll reconvene in say 12 minutes.
Alrighty.
So welcome back from your playtime. A couple things I wanted to mention with Teacher Server. That is the third tool I showed that gives a bit of analysis about the changes it is making to the text. This is different from most AI tools in that you must manually click a button at the bottom to save your output. And then your output is available to you when you create an account. You click on your name and you go to saved responses. And anything that you remembered to click the save button will show up here. Most tools save everything by default, but for this one, you have to click that button and save it. I added a link to the sample that where I was demonstrating the tools earlier. So that doc with the different versions from the different tools is available to you in the handout now. To wrap things up today, yep, I remembered. Nope. All right, I remembered to do the recording, so good for me. To wrap things up, let's talk a bit about what did you try? Which tools did you use? What did you have to work through? Or what was just weird? What went well? And what are you going to try next?
I work with agricultural workers in southern Minnesota. So I went to a rather intense article, which now I have to find. It's called Potential Implications of Immigration Restrictions on the U.S. Agricultural Workforce. And I used Magic School to try to change the level of that. I really didn't get a chance to figure out how well it did, but I can't wait to go back and play some more.
I'm so glad to hear that. Yeah, it really makes it much easier to pull in all those, real world, very relevant texts into the classroom.
Mm,
Go
I have
ahead.
a short update from my brief detour into trying to get Copilot to work. Is Copilot made a valiant attempt to understand Lexile levels and was able to get a story of about 300 words. So it kind of lived up. It's probably on par with every other general use GPT. And as per standard, it then, in its follow-up question, it asked if I would like a worksheet or picture to go with the story. And generated a PDF for me. So let's see how that ended up. There's some anticipation. A downside is that Copilot had to interact with my workplace authentication. So for viewers who are less tech savvy, that means that there's an additional barrier if you're hoping to use Copilot, whereas something like Magic School, all that you really need to remember is your Magic School account.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think the access to Copilot or Gemini, if you're using it through your school or your organization, that might be a conversation you need to have with your IT department, because there could be a lot of restrictions in place. Stacy says, I played with Teacher Server. I created a cause and effect chain creator and government structure comparer. Very interesting. Both were very relevant to what many of our learners need in order to have better comprehension. Fantastic. Yeah, I'm excited to play around with Teacher Server some more. All right. Well, I want to be respectful of everyone's time. So we will wrap things up. Just a note about CEUs, you will receive an email with an evaluation for this meeting. And then just like for Atlas events, when you submit the evaluation, you can download a CEU certificate. I will also include in that email all the handout and the slides and relevant links for you. If you get really into this and decide you want to create more leveled texts or more original texts for adult learners, please do share to the form that I will create and send you the link to. Not only will you be helping your colleagues out, but you can also have the opportunity to earn additional CEUs if that is something that interests you for relicensure. Just a reminder, this gigantic spreadsheet is linked at the top of the handout. And that's where you can access all the resources from previous sessions. Just keep scrolling down if you can't find what you need. We have a Minnesota Adult Education YouTube channel. It's great if you can not only go to the landing page for that channel, but also go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And then you can get notified when new videos are added. You can also earn CEUs for viewing recordings of trainings and submitting a reflection. If you're not sure how to do that, just contact the DL help desk and we will make sure you have the information you need. But you can earn CEUs for pretty much any of those recordings. And thank you so much. This has been really fun. We've been a small but mighty group, and we are looking forward to continuing to learn with you about AI. On that evaluation, if you want to, please include some suggestions for other things about AI that you would like to talk about or work on, and we will definitely be eager to receive that feedback. Thank you so much. I wish you all the best. I know this is a crazy time of year, so I really appreciate your taking the time to be here today.
All right, thank you for coming, and please, we're hungry for new topics.